Writing and evaluating expressions. Alright, before we talk about this, let's define these words. The first word, evaluate, look in the middle of that word and you see the word value. So we're just finding the value or solving. So we're going to say evaluate means to solve, or we could say find the value. And in math, that's normally as a number. So the value could be 2 or 10. So we've talked about evaluate means to solve. What about expressions? What are expressions? Yeah, we have facial expressions, that's for sure. And then there's the expression bite the bullet, which means you got to accept something that's difficult or unpleasant. And this actually comes from, in battle times, they wouldn't have time to administer anesthesia before a surgery, so the patient would actually have to bite down on a bullet to try to distract them from the pain. So that's just a little side note, but we're talking about mathematical expressions, and mathematical expressions are a little different. So in math, expressions are similar to equations. The difference is that expressions don't have an equal sign. So equations have an equal sign, but expressions don't. And with expressions, there are 3 common ways that we can show multiplication. And I'm going to list those 3 for you. And the reason we have these 3 ways is because mathematicians are often pretty lazy and they look for shortcuts. And the first way is a number and a letter written next to each other. The second way is 2 or more letters written side by side. And the third way to write multiplication is a number written next to parentheses. Alright, let's do examples for each of these. So example 1, we'll go with the first way. And we'll say 5y. And the other way we can write 5y is 5 times y, because a number and a letter means multiply. Example 2, going with the second one, we could say, for instance, ABC. ABC. Easy as 1, 2, 3. So we're going to do A times B times C, because it's letters written next to each other. So A times B times C. And again, mathematicians are lazy. We don't like to write times next to each of those or multiply next to each of those. So we just need to know from looking at that that means to multiply. And then the last way, example 3, we could say 4 parentheses 7. And parentheses, since there is no operation written in between the 4 and the 7, that's understood to be multiply. So it really means 4 times 7. And those are the 3 major ways that you'll see as shortcuts where we don't write multiply, but we mean multiply. So understand that math code. Alright, let's use a couple questions that involve those ways. And, well, first we want to say to evaluate a variable expression, we need to substitute a number for that variable, and then we simplify it the best we can. Alright, so we're going to substitute a number for the variable. And evaluate's the key word. When you see evaluate, you know you're solving it, you're finding the value. So you need to substitute in a number for the variable. Alright. So a question involving that would be 3y, and actually I should say evaluate 3y minus 18 for y equals 8. Evaluate 3y minus 18 for y equals 8. So they tell us, or I told you, what y is. So y is 8. So every time I see a y, I'm going to write an 8 in there. And in this case, it just comes up once. But what did we learn above? If you have a number and a letter, that means to multiply. So this really means 3 times y, or in this case, 3 times 8. So I can either show that with parentheses, or I can just write 3 times 8, or I could write it using parentheses. They mean the same thing. 3 times 8 minus 18. So now I'm still going to use order of operations. So do I multiply first, or do I subtract first? And remember, multiply comes first. So 3 times 8 is going to be 24 minus 18. And 24 minus 18 is just 6. So again, I just plugged in my 8 for my y, and I knew a number and a letter meant multiply. And then I multiply before I subtract, and then I get 6. Cool. Okay, let's try one with a little different there. We're going to throw some parentheses in this one, and hopefully we won't get you too confused. Alright, so evaluate 5 parentheses w minus 7 parentheses plus 2 for w equals 13. Well, I'm going to substitute that 13 in for w. So I'm going to write 5 parentheses, I'm going to plug in that 13 for w, minus 7, parentheses plus 2, and now I got rid of all my letters. That's good. I just have numbers to deal with. And I'm going to write PEMDAS off to the side, because this one has more steps than the other question, and I want to make sure I'm doing it all right. So I do have parentheses, so I'm going to do that first. So 13 minus 7 is going to come first. And 13 minus 7 is 6, so that's going to be 5. And I need that parenthesis 6 because I don't want that. This doesn't mean 56. Remember, we learned just a minute ago that a number in parentheses means multiply. So this means 5 times 6. And then plus 2. Alright, so 5 times 6 plus 2. And now I don't have any exponents, but I do have multiply and divide. I have multiply. So I'm going to do 5 times 6 next. So that'll give me 30 plus 2. And then 30 plus 2 is just 32. So again, to recap, we plugged in the number for w and put it right in there. For w we put 13. Then we did our order of operations. We did our parentheses first. And we know that a number in parentheses means multiply. And we did that next before addition. Alright, let's do one that involves more than one letter. Alright, so C plus D. Oh, we're going to evaluate this, by the way. The question is evaluate C plus D over 2 plus CD for C equals 2 and D equals 6. Well, notice we have 4 letters written here. It's actually 2 letters, but they're written twice. So we're going to need to plug in several times right here. So when I see that C, I'm going to write instead, I'm going to write a 2, because that's what it told me to do right here. So 2 is going to go in for C, and 6 is going to go in for D. So it's 2 plus 6 over 2 plus, and then what does it mean when you have 2 letters written next to each other? If you said multiply, you're correct. So 2 times 6. And now I need to follow PEMDAS, so I'm going to write that off to the side. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to look at each step. This is how you can avoid making mistakes. So do we have any parentheses? No, but what do we see here? A fraction that has more than one number on one of the sides. So on the numerator here we have two numbers, so I'm going to write parentheses in there. And now I do have parentheses, so I'm going to do parentheses first. I'm going to do the 2 plus 6, and I'm going to get 8 over 2 plus 2 times 6. I'm bringing everything else down. And now I'm looking here. I've already done parentheses, so I'll check that off. I don't have exponents, so I'll check that off. Multiply and divide. Remember, a fraction bar means divide. And we also have multiply over here, but which one comes first from left to right? Division. So I do 8 divided by 2 first. So 8 divided by 2 is 4 plus 2 times 6. And now I still have multiplication, so I'm going to do that before my addition. So 2 times 6 gives us 12. Bring down the 4 and the plus. 4 plus 12 is 16. Okay, just a quick recap. I plugged in 2 and 6 into my C and my D, and I had to do that twice since they came up on 2 different occasions. And I had more than one number on the fraction, so I put it in parentheses, and I just followed order of operations and got the answer 16. Alright, next up I have one that I'd like for you to try on your own and then pause the video. Alright, go ahead and jot down this question and then pause the video. It says evaluate n plus 20 minus 3np for n equals 4 and p equals 2. Alright, and now for your solution. Alright, we plugged in 4 for n, plus 20 minus 3, and we plugged in 4 and 2 in for p. And since we have letters written next to each other, that means multiply. And now following order of operations, I don't have parentheses or exponents, but I do have multiply and divide, so I'm going to do that multiplication first. So 3 times 4 is 12, and I'll bring everything else down. And then 12 times 2 is 24, and I'll bring everything else down. And now I have add and subtract, and I'm going to do whatever comes first from left to right. So addition comes first from left to right. So 4 plus 20 is 24, minus 24 is 0. Hopefully you got nothing for that, because nothing will get you something. In this case, the right answer. Actually, that kind of looks like a donut, doesn't it? There's a whole lot of nothing. Alright, last topic is writing expressions. Let's do an example question. Alright, a gym charges its members $20 per month, as well as a $50 initiation fee. Write a variable expression for the cost of membership. Evaluate the cost of going to the gym for 6 months. Alright, there are 2 questions here. As you can see, this guy pumping some iron. The first is write a variable expression. So we're going to do that first for the cost of membership. So variable expression for the cost of membership. Okay, so it's $20 per month, as well as $50 initiation fee. So it's $20 for each month. So if it was 1 month, it would be 20. If it was 2 months, it would be 40. 3 months, it would be 60. See, we're just multiplying there. So it's 20 times m, or I could just say 20m, and I'm going to let m be the number of months. You should always let your variable stand for something. And write down what that is. So M stands for months, and M is easy to remember. If you just use X, X may not have any meaning there. So 20M, as well as a $50 initiation fee. That means you just pay it one time. You're initiated, you join the gym, You pay it one time. So we're just going to add that on to your cost, and that's going to be the first answer. So 20M plus 50. All right, the next question, we've already done variable expression. The next one is evaluate how much it's going to cost for 6 months. So we're going to plug that into our answer that we just got. So 20, we're going to plug in a 6 for M. Remember, a number and a letter means multiply, so it's 20 times 6 plus 50. And what do we do first, multiply or add? Hopefully you said multiply, so that gives us 120. And how I did that in my head, I just did 6 times 2 is 12, and then I tacked on that 0. So it's 120 plus 50, and 120 plus 50 is 170 bucks for 6 months, or half a year. And hopefully you're getting something out of that gym membership, right? All right, go make some expressions.